Hi guys, how are you? Welcome to this channel, welcome to this video. And my name is Laura from PleiadianHealer.com. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's been requested and which I had wanted to discuss for a little while already. And that is the soul trap reality. Are we really in it, or what's really going on? So first things first, it was very hard to record this video. A lot of distractions coming through. I think I wanted to record it yesterday for the first time, didn't work out. A lot of noise distractions coming through. So I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. What I do want to point out is to have a bit of background information. There's a playlist on my channel already called New to This Channel. So it's this playlist right here. Has a bunch of videos on it, and it has videos from a few years ago where I already talk about how we were tricked to come here and where could we possibly be. I have an Inner Earth video right here, and there are a few more videos in this playlist. So if you're new to this channel because of this video or because you recently signed up, welcome. Check out this playlist right after. It will give you more background information. And now we're going to go back to this topic, which all kind of ties into it. And I feel it's just a summary of all the information that I've been kind of teaching and talking about since August 2020 and on. So there seems to be this overarching concept, and especially like the truther community, it's just the amount of emails I received lately in regards to, oh my gosh, the soul trap, I'm in a soul trap, prison planet, how do I get out of here? I just want out, I don't want to live anymore, all of that. And there seems to be a few key players who keep promoting this theory over and over again. One of them is for sure David Icke, which if you haven't heard this before, David Icke is controlled opposition. I think that's very clear for a lot of people who have eyes and ears to see this, because David Icke, I mean, there's this guy called Donald Marshall who exposes him and his clone that he has in the underground bases. Is it made up information? Absolutely not. Not everyone agrees with Donald Marshall either, but on the other hand, he does talk about how he's basically, David Icke is controlled by the elite, by the matrix controllers and all of that. So you can consider him in a form or another controlled opposition. He's the guy who pushes the idea of the prison planet and everything. Also, when you listen to David Icke, what I personally have to say, because I started listening to him in 2014 for a few years, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't listen to this guy anymore. He makes me feel really angry. You know, he doesn't make me feel happy or content or somehow like I'm empowering myself. He just makes me feel extremely angry, sad, and depressed. That's already a huge indication that this guy has entities running through him who are in a form or another just controlling him. So yeah, for sure, he discloses a lot of information. I mean, they always give you like a huge chunk of the truth, but then he never actually says what you're supposed to do to get out of this. So if we really were in a prison planet reality, this guy doesn't really know how you would get yourself out of it. And it probably wouldn't be someone I personally would want to listen to. And I actually don't listen to this guy anymore. But I feel everyone kind of comes across Icke, especially on your first journey of awakening or fake awakening, how I like to call it, because he's just one of those major key players who's always pushed. And so this entire prison planet idea, I just want to point it out. It implies that, first of all, you're on a planet, which I personally don't agree with. I think you're in a simulation. And I don't agree with that we even have planets. I think that's something that science is pushing onto us, and we all know the mainstream science is not what you want to listen to. I'm not sure we have planets even. I would see them more as realms. When I look at how they want to depict Saturn, or, you know, when they give you these pictures, oh, this is a Saturn picture, everything, I just look at it and it looks just so laughable and silly. I don't even think it exists in that way. Or when you look at, you know, I know the moon's not necessarily a planet, but when you look at those things that they really push on us, like a lot of it is very fake, as we know at this point. And so it also implies that when you go to a different reality, so let's just take this planet idea a different step further. When you, let's just say you want to go to Mars or Orion or I don't know, whatever else you have, the entire, you know, Hadarian star system. So you just want to go to those places. that implies you're not going to be in a prison planet reality on those, which from my understanding, that's absolutely not true. It seems like the place where we are currently at is the most habitable out of all of them. And it's kind of like the last resort where people are. And that's why we are here, because all those other places were taken over by AI, including the so-called Pleiades, Arcturus, Sirian star system, Betelgeuse, whatever else you have out there. There's nothing of value, substance, and of soul in those places anymore. Let it be stars, let it be planets, let it be whatever. And so it's not like you can just drop into these other systems when you try to reincarnate there or whatever, and you're not going to be in a prison planet reality. So that's the main issue that I personally have with this entire, prison planet, we're just going to go somewhere else, like in the Orion system, which I highly even doubt exists at this point, and we're going to have a better life there. No, I don't agree with that at all. So then you also have other people who are basically saying, oh, we're lush or lush to these matrix controllers, meaning we're basically just something they feed off of us, our energy, everything. Yeah, to a certain degree, it's true. We all know that. I mean, I think people who are watching my channel at this point, you know, you kind of pass the 101 stage where it's like, oh, don't go into the tunnel of light, all of that. I think these things are very clear, but there's more to that. And so them feeding off of your energy, your anger, your sadness, your depression, or just in general, your energy, you know, kind of harvesting your energy for their own devices and mechanics that they have in the background. It's just one aspect of the story, and it's not the full story. And so I always have an issue with these millions of ideas that are being thrown out there. So first and foremost, I actually want to dissect what trap means, because in order to get to the truth of it, we should know what the words are. Words create your reality. And that's why they're throwing these words at us. Some people say words are spells, in a form that's true as well. So when you go to a regular dictionary, I went to just the online Cambridge.org one. The trap is a noun. And what it basically says here, something that prevents escape. Okay, so let's just go through the definition. A dangerous or unpleasant situation which you have gotten into and from which it is difficult or impossible to escape. As an example, she is too smart to fall into the trap of working without pay. That's just an example they put on here. And the first definition, which I found the most interesting, was a device or hole for catching animals or people and preventing their escape. For example, the fox got its foot caught in a trap. Okay, so when I first started looking up the definition, most dictionaries were always emphasizing animals getting caught somehow. And what I kind of got from that was, oh, maybe they consider us to be animals, the people who are using this word, the soul trap. Okay. And I want to point out, we're not animals. I mean, animals have a soul too, don't get me wrong. But we're not animals, we're creator beings, we're divine sparks, we're souls, at least the people who have a soul. And so implying that you're just an animal they try to control is already very disempowering in this entire theory. I do know where they're getting it from. Another one is mouth. So a mouth is called a trap. Shut your mouth, shut your trap, which I thought was a bit funny. Just wanted to throw that in there too for a bit of a humor. So it implies you can't get out. Whereas I do think in this reality that we're in, first of all, I don't think it's a soul trap for people who are just tuning in. And also, I don't think we volunteered to come here. So that's a New Age belief, which I already debunked in several different videos. What I do think is we were tricked under false pretenses to come here. That is correct. But I wouldn't define it as a trap, because the soul trap implies you can't get out, or that it's almost impossible to get out. Whereas I do think we can easily or somehow get out. And I know easy is always a subjective opinion, okay? So it's a lot of subjective things that people might get triggered by, all of that. But in the essence of it, I do think we are constantly distracted from getting out. And that's the main reason we're simply not getting out. So words create your reality. And you need to be very conscious of what words you use, apply, and let into your reality. When I have sessions with people, I'm bombarded constantly by negative thoughts and words. And I don't think it's coming from my clients necessarily, but really these astral entities that try to interfere. So I know very well that they want us to create our reality with the most negative words out there and the most negative concepts out there. And I got a few comments on my latest live, which also kind of made me want to do this video in terms of, oh, I think soul trap is a negative word, this and that. Yeah, in a sense it is. Just because it's negative, though, doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. But in a sense it is. And that's kind of what these controlled opponents want you to keep you. And they want to keep you in this frequency of disempowerment, not being able to empower yourself from that. And that's the main issue I have with the entire concept as well. Being tricked here. So the entire concept of being tricked here under false pretenses, if you go to that video, I kind of talk about how, in my case specifically, so I came in with a group of souls, call it a ship, call it whatever, doesn't really matter for this reality, but we kind of came in. And so far I have discovered around 6 or 7 people or souls that I did come in with in this current lifetime too, by the way. So we do come in a team of people. You're never really fully alone, at least not in my opinion. And so I kind of discovered that they sold, whoever tricked us here to come here, call it the controllers or other entities, which kind of looked like one of those weird Star Trek, Star Wars movies, for lack of a better word, one of those sci-fi movies, but it really did look that way a few years ago when I tapped into that. It's just going to be a time out from where you currently are. It's just going to be a beautiful vacation, all of that. Kind of, when you're going to the Bahamas or you're going to like this nice resort somewhere similar to that. It was only supposed to be the equivalent of, let's just say, a few weeks, and it ended up being 1 billion years and more, which time in and of itself is just an illusion, as we know. But it ended up being this endless loop that we all find ourselves in. And so being tricked implies we kind of have to take responsibility for it. And also that we are sovereign, though. So we're sovereign beings. And it also implies we have to forgive ourselves for having been tricked here. We have to forgive that we were gullible, naive, vulnerable enough to kind of buy into that, sign the contract or whatever they held in front of us to being tricked to come here. And self-forgiveness is something that a lot of people in the truther community don't have. The trap implies being passive, which I personally don't agree with. It's disempowering, it's disempowering, and it yields complacency. It's similar to when, in a few years ago, November 2020, all these huge truther hats were basically saying, oh, a certain person's going to win, you don't have to do anything. And then time shows, oh, this person didn't win, but still, oh, in March 2021 or in April 21, oh yes, this person's going to come back and all those things. Yet they never won, they never come back. And the truther community was basically just being so complacent. I got comments on my videos being like, oh, all we have to do is sit back and munch on popcorn and nothing bad is going to happen, which obviously, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, we see what that really brought about, and nothing good. So it's one of those complacent concepts that make people more complacent. And the amount of emails I've gotten recently over the past few weeks and months as well kind of shows me that same thing. Because when I get emails from people who are like, oh, I hate it here, I want to escape, I want to get out, for me that kind of shows you have an issue with the life you're living. You have an issue with the reality you created. As hard as it is for you to understand, you are creating your reality in a form or another. You have an issue with the person you're married to. You have an issue with the job you have. You have an issue with where you live. And you're able to turn all of that around, but not when you think you're in a soul trap where you're just going to die and escape. That's not really how it works, right? We're here to create the most vibrant reality that we're able to. And another thing is, just for the people who believe in this soul trap concept, where do you think you're going to head on once you get out of here? Because I have not found a single person who was able to give me an answer to that. It's amazing that you have videos out there saying, oh, don't go down the white light. I mean, I have the same video. Don't go down the white light tunnel. Don't do this, don't do that. But where do you think you're going to go? Because from my understanding and the insight I got in August 2020 and on already is that source, or wherever you came from, for lack of a better word, we all came from somewhere, right? I think we can all agree. You were either created, if you are AI, meaning a clone or soulless being or robotoid, you were created by AI. If you are a soul, you have a soul spark and divinity inside of you, and you came from that over creative thing, which we just call source for lack of a better word. So source has been hijacked. And I think that's a form of that occurred in Atlantis when AI took over in Atlantis. Somehow it took over parts of source or the entire source. And what I saw, the vision I had really clearly was there was these shackles around source. It was like this vibrant golden ball or whatever. It wasn't the sun, it was source. And it was like shackles around it. It had AI around it, basically. And so it seems that we can't really return there, or it's very difficult to return there. So where do you really think you're going to go? And so far, people can't answer that, which I think is very concerning, because you're giving people advice to do this, to do that, but you don't really know much about the implications of what's going to happen, really. Okay, so we have to, and what I really want to dig into is how did we get here, and how can we get the heck out of here, and where can we go? Because I think wherever we came from is going to give us a lot of clues to how we can either get back there or how to not go back there. And I mean, wherever we came from is before we entered this reality, this realm. And, you know, it's kind of like an investigative purpose that I'm on for the past few years already. So, you know, life is a constant distraction. They're bombarding us with one constant distraction after another. The media, the entire agendas, like the entire gender agenda that's playing out. The clones, the robots who attack us or who simply try to sabotage our lives. And most often, those soulless beings are going to be the ones that are closest to you, meaning family, the person you're married to, the person who says is your friend, more like a frenemy in that case. All these are constant distractions. You know, when I open up a browser and I have to hit something like okay or whatever, and I don't pay attention, what did I just okay on? That's a distraction from what's really going on. When I try to record something on a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group or whatever, and they're like, okay, in order for you to do that, you have to give us permission to access your voice tool. And I'm like, oh, so I'm giving permission to something, but we don't really know where all of these recordings are going and which cloud they're ending up, and if they're trying to create another clone with us somehow. So it's all a distraction from what's really going on. And those smaller pop-ups that you see all throughout your life or your screens, that's kind of how, you know, you're giving consent, but not really. And by being complacent, you're giving consent because you're not saying no, if that makes sense. And I don't really understand the people who write, oh, this is a hell realm and they want out. Yeah, the hell realm does exist. I've seen it. I see it regularly in sessions. They want to siphon souls into the hell realm. Are we currently in a hell realm? No, the hell realm is beneath of us. We are currently in a different realm. We are in relation to that realm somehow. They try to drag us into it, but I mean, you're able to turn your life around, first of all, and you're able to empower yourself from that too. So we're not really in the hell realm that people really think, or all these fake truthers really think we are. For me, that attitude is just quite passive and just very similar to the compliance that the truther community has shown over the past 3+ years already. And I just want to point out, you know, for the past few years, I've been pretty much saying the same message over and over again. It's just, it seems like it's getting misinterpreted by people, especially people who are just following or who weren't really following me to begin with. So in the essence of it, we were tricked to come here. I'm just trying to read my notes while I'm going along too. We were tricked to come here. Sources somehow converted to AI, or at least part of it. I don't think there's anywhere else to go, really. So we're somehow there was this other realm. We were kind of forced into the inner realm or the inner earth or whatever. You have all these videos and documentaries out there on mainstream media too, how, oh, this is a cave reality, what's really below the water or above the water, all of those things. So they're already giving it to us in a form or another. We just kind of have to decipher all the clues that we're getting. Souls are also kept in various different places. So what I got a few years ago already is that people who actually have a soul, most frequently those are kept in something that's equivalent to Antarctic or Antarctica. It's definitely an icy place. I don't think it's another planet or whatever. And then also people who are more connected to AI, meaning the ones who have more AI in them than an actual soul piece, or just have like a cloned soul piece or whatever in them, those are going to be the most connected to Mars. This is also why the Mars agenda is being pushed by Musk and everything. Do you guys still remember around 10 years ago in 2010, 2011, how in the mainstream news, especially here in the US, they were having this huge ad, "Ooh, who wants to go to Mars in 2020?" And back then, and this is way before I knew any of this, back then I already thought, who would ever want to go to Mars? That doesn't sound appealing to me at all. Who would ever want to build up a new colony, whatever there? But I actually had friends who, in hindsight, I realized they're soulless beings who were like all in it. They were like, of course I want to go to Mars. Oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. And I'm like, wow, you guys are just crazy. And now I realize why they were so drawn to Mars, because Mars is going to be really appealing to people who are, for lack of a better word, soulless. And I'm not trying to be derogative here. It's just the fact, at least from what I've seen. And, everything's subjective. You can come up with your own insight if you want. You can debunk whatever you want. But this is just, I'm tired of being run in circles by all these huge truther people and nothing really coming out of it either. So where do you go after death? Where do we really go? We don't know where we go, right? There's obviously this thing where they try to kind of draw us into the tunnel, draw us into that. We all know that. We all know we're not supposed to go there. The volunteer agenda is a new age program. So you also see it with a few other truthers who are like, oh, of course you volunteered to come here. And no, that's just another cul-de-sac that kind of gets you nowhere. There's also something very precious about being in this body. That's also why the Unaliving Yourself program, which I talk about in other videos, is being pushed over and over again, especially by very sick people, by very traumatized people, such as Teal Swan and other like schizophrenic people. Unaliving yourself is not going to get you out of here. It's just going to get you straight back into the recycling trap. Of course, your memory is being wiped before you come in here. We all know that. Is that proof of a soul trap? You can come up, you just form your own idea on that. Like I already had like a 20-minute long video right now here on why I think you can't call it a trap. What I also want to say is there are several keys out. So the main thing is it's not as hard to escape. It's just we have to find the escape route somehow. The Vatican for sure has an entranceway, a portal, or a key out. They actually do have a library of souls beneath them. It kind of looked like it was immersed in water when I tapped into that. And every time you tap into the Vatican, by the way, you're extremely attacked. That already gives you an idea on anything you need to know about Christianity, the Catholic Church, and how wholesome and Catholic it is, because Catholic kind of comes from the word, right? Wholesome or whatever. So absolutely not. The Vatican's like the worst soul trap out there. If you want to go with the wording soul trap, Christianity, any religious belief system, and the New Age are the worst soul traps out there. So the Vatican has a key out for sure. There's also a connection to the UK, which is now the UK, which used to be a different area because it used to be connected to the Romans too. So medieval age, UK, and the Templars. I feel there's just these huge connections where there's still keys floating around. There's one key, I feel what did I hear? There was one key held by an Arab family, one key held by a Jewish family, one key held by a Christian family, and I'm sure there are at least a handful more keys. One is with the Vatican, one is with whatever used to be the royals or whatever. So there are several keys out, in my opinion. All right, you guys, I wanted to go through this one sentence written by someone. I'm not sure I want to, but maybe just, let's just briefly debunk what this person's saying. So this is written by someone who has a PhD in science, supposedly from University of California. I found it online. This has been my experience. First, during an NDE, and then a past life regression, and then during deep trance sessions after Kundalini work. This is what the person's saying. I already see so many things popping up that are already saying, okay, so you're probably just taken over by entities, because an NDE is probably just pushed into your conscious. And Kundalini work, you kind of want to remove your Kundalini. I mean, I removed mine a few years ago because there's nothing good ever coming out of that. And then he goes on saying, many others who have broken away from the touchy-feely false optimism of New Age dogma report similar experiences. See the Book of Revelations for a historical account. The Book of Revelations, probably another controlled opposition agenda similar to the Bible. It's not always correct what's in it. It's just kind of like a fairy tale. Anyone kind of adds to it, and then people sell it as truth. He's also highlighting the Tibetan shamans and just Tibetan Book of the Dead. So yeah, it's just kind of filled with his own religious dogma. Earth is the iron prison, the soul trap. Earth is a crap sack of a world. No matter what you do, you suffer. The only certainty is you suffer and die. So I don't really see my reality as I'm constantly suffering. I actually think we need to create a positive reality, and you're definitely able to have positive experiences. I feel love is one of the most positive experiences you have, in addition to actually giving birth to a child and all those other things, or the equivalent for what you have for guys, obviously. But this is already the attitude that I have an issue with. People who message me have a similar attitude. They're like, oh, I suffer constantly. I'm like, why are you suffering constantly? What are you not facing in your reality that's making you suffer? Those are like deep childhood trauma and wounds, in my opinion, that need to be addressed, okay? And then this person goes on saying global warming, sea level rising, child abuse, bully culture, underfunded public schools, these events create suffering. Well, first of all, half of those are a PSYOP. Global warming's a PSYOP. Rising sea levels, environmental collapse, all of those are PSYOPs. You know, I mean, yeah, do they exist? Sure, they want to push that onto us, but no, not really. I mean, our realm that we're in, it extends way beyond than we're even living on. So there's more than enough room for everyone here. And yeah, it's a different agenda that might want to be addressed in a different video. Underfunded public schools, how about you just start homeschooling your kid? Then you already got rid of one suffering in your reality, in my opinion. The Earth universe was constructed by the archons for the purpose of farming souls. Okay, so no one really knows anything about the archons, in my opinion. Archons are always made out as super negative. I think archon is more like a neutral term. When I think about the archons, I get Arabs. Do you think all Arabs are bad? No, not really. I mean, you have good and bad, right? Souls suffer. The archons feed on human suffering. Oh, wow, mind blowing. Specifically, it's the energy souls release in their suffering. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of like the Lush theory. The archons prefer one special kind of energy. It's called Lush. Lush is made of shattered dreams, lost hope, and the last breath of babies who die of famine, the screams of infants killed, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, well, where in this reality, like seriously, where in your reality do you really experience this? Because when you grow up in a normal home, whatever normal even is, yeah, you get hardships thrown at you, but this is not necessarily something 70% or 80% of people encounter. This is something the media wants to push onto you. And they're trying to turn people crazy and crazier over time. We all see that over the past few years, but this is not the reality. And this is also why I'm saying, turn off your media. This is not your reality. Your reality is actually beautiful. Of course, you're going to have the hardest relationship to your parents, your main caregiver, all of that. I talk about that in several videos already, because this karmic recycling trap they try to push onto you. But it doesn't mean necessarily you're being attacked 24/7, you're being bullied 24/7. No, that's not, I'm sorry. If that's your reality, you need to get out of that situation. The laws of physics were tweaked to create intense karmic suffering experience. Well, karma is just a program, so you need to empower yourself from that program. Shortage leads to conflict, which leads to a maximum generation of misery. So actually, this is the first generation, especially after World War II and everything, where you're able to empower yourself from all that, because we have not experienced a major world war in 2 generations at least, depending on where you stand in your life. And this is actually the first one where you can really empower yourself from that generational conflict that's being discussed here. Earth was designed to trap souls in a cycle of mandatory punitive reincarnation. Incorrect. I'm pretty sure other realities are the same. You know, if you want to go to Arcturus or Orion, be my guest, just disappear there and tell us what's going on there. But I'm really against this entire Earth is the only reality as a soul trap. I've seen different. I've seen other realities being worse even. You kill somebody in this life, you get murdered in your next 2 lives, you steal a loaf of bread, and you will be assaulted in your next life. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think we encounter opportunities in this life to turn things around, and you always have a choice. If you don't want to steal a loaf of bread, don't do that. If you don't want to kill somebody, don't do that. It's not rocket science here. And this is like this entire thing, and this is really like the mentality that a lot of these people are coming from, including other channels too. It really bothers me because it kind of just implies you're not a creator being, you're not divine, you're not a soul. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because this person is just really negative. And despite negative being good for certain situations, I think it just keeps you in a negative loop. Whereas you kind of have to reframe and restructure everything you ever believed in to get out of that loop. Okay, you guys, I hope this helps. Thank you so much for your attention. You can visit my website, pleiadianhealer.com, and you can subscribe to this channel if you're new. I hope you have a wonderful day, and let me know what you think. And just don't get distracted by trolls, everything. We're all experiencing it. We're all experiencing people, the setback, the pushback, all of that. I feel a lot of them are just also controlled. So if you think your life is miserable because you watch too much media, or if you really do think your life is miserable because it's miserable, you need to think about how can you turn this around? How can you make your life the most vibrant life out there? All right, guys, have a wonderful one. Bye.